It is a rather strange nickname, but appropriate for Superman doing to... Let me do that line again.
Words, I do know them.
Yes. I wrote that damn line! And even though death is a motivator, why?
Shall we try that again?
Yes, we shall. Oh my God, I hate my mouth right now.
Do you have water on hand?
I feel like Larry Boy in reverse. I do not love my lips. Okay. Let's try this again.
Okay.
Yeah, we are in the place of
Hi-ho, ChibiMethos here, and welcome to the Little Old People Podcast. I'm here with my co-old person, Mark.
AKA the little black dude. If this is your first time listening, we're two oldish nerds looking at random fandoms from varying directions.
I'm a historian and archaeologist by degree and a former wage slave by trade. Mark's a jeweler, YouTuber, and fellow fan enthusiast. Today, we're going to review Superman Red Sun. But wait, I can hear you protest. You guys only review trash films. I read the comic I assume it's based on, and it was pretty good. Lex Luthor isn't a villain, Lois Lane has an actual character, Batman was Russian, and how badass is that? Wonder Woman was loyal to the hammer and sickle and the communist ideal, and Superman took over communist Russia from Joseph motherfucking Stalin. And the ending I did not see coming. Oh boy! And listener, I agree with you. That was an amazing comic. If you get the chance, find a scan and read it, or watch the motion comic on YouTube. But we're here to talk about the animated movie that released in early 2020, at the start of lockdown. I literally left my house, walked to Target, and bought this movie the day that came out, to enjoy, during lockdown. And after I watched it, I was so outraged. It has sat in my DVD player for close to 10 months at time of recording. I couldn't deal with it. I was angry, betrayed, but I have calmed somewhat, and I made myself watch it again, after inoculating myself first with the motion comic. Remember, vaccines save lives.
Now, I'm a 100% DC fan. I didn't really want to get this movie, not because I didn't enjoy Red Sun as a comic. It was a story I was already familiar with, so I didn't really see the point. But the amount of pissed off Captain Summer was at it, I had to find out why. I know why now, but I do have differing views.
By the way, I knew the ending, especially of the comic, and I still cried with joy as I watched the motion comic. That was good storytelling. See also every Lord of the Rings and Hobbit film. But back to Superman. I have no beef with the animation in the movie. I like DC's animation style. I have no problem with the voice acting, though the Russian accents were a little hit and miss, but it got the job done. The film opens on a bucolic farm that could be anywhere in the world, amber waves of grain and all. A subtitle lets us know that it's the USSR 1946. 3 bullies are chasing a boy, and a girl is following the entire lot of them. The bullies get beaten up by the girl and run off, while the boy that they were after hides, and then we are introduced to Superman as a 10-year-old boy, who shows the girl, Svetlana, that he's super strong and can already fly. She tells them that he must give himself to the state. We also never get Russia's Superman's name, so he's just Superman.
Svetlana calls him Solnishka, a variation on the word for sun in Russian. Svetlana calls him Solnishka, a variant on the word for sun. It is a rather strange nickname, but appropriate for Superman due to being powered by the sun. Also, she reminds me of Stands with a Fist from Dances with Wolves. When she decks that boy Dimitri, that mess was funny.
Yes.
I'll hit you again!
I will admit that was an amusing scene. It didn't make me laugh, but it was amusing, and I was glad that they did show that, girls will sometimes beat up boys if necessary, so that was kind of amusing. So we then cut to ye olde wartime news, and we hear about a strange being, Soviet Superman, and the speculation of him being merely a propaganda stunt. We then jump to Lex Luthor, who's on the phone with the president, trying to reassure him about the news and how fake it is when Lois Lane walks in. And she and Lex have a nice, healthy marriage, and that's nice to see, I suppose.
This version of Lex has got to be the smuggest asshole version I've ever come across. At least in the other stories, he's subtle, he's cunning, and he's entertaining. This Lex has a face in need of a punching the entire movie. Ace punch!
And this is actually about the point where the motion comic opens. So if you're going to watch it, none of that other stuff you'll actually see because it's not actually in there. So we jump back to Russia to see Stalin dedicating a new hydroelectric dam, and we're given the impression that he had a hand in raising Superman, who is now an adult. Superman's a bit camera shy, but he comes up to the mic to make his speech and then pieces out. Later, a Soviet satellite starts falling out of the sky, and you know what that means! And of course, Lois is there. And Superman saves the day, then gives this speech about how the Soviet Union doesn't oppose the US, but our oppressive government, does, and he's there to help us anytime we need it. And it's just like, yeah, isn't political propaganda fun? Just on both sides. Lois challenges him to be interviewed, and he refuses, saying that the press is the enemy of the people. Now, this will be a little difficult for me, but I will do my best to keep my political opinions out of the episode, but bear with me. I may hurt myself.
One of the things I can say about this scene, questionable accuracy notwithstanding, is it illustrates the differing mindsets of Americans and Soviets. There are many better ways to do it, but it's a quick and dirty show of a concept. So, yeah, we can live with that for now.
Everything about this movie is quick and dirty as compared to everything else. It's all just quick and dirty.
Can't argue with that.
So Lois calls, Superman out on his BS, and as he is wont to do when challenged, he nopes out. He comes back later on to challenge her again, verbally, of course. There's no fist fighting. That would make this a good movie. And she gives him a folder of top secret information about what's actually going on in the USSR under, Joseph Stalin. So he leaves and heads for Siberia, and is briefly reunited with Svetlana, who's been in a gulag for knowing him before he became the property of the state. Just as a random side note, this is only 13 minutes in, and this is where I fell asleep. A few days later, I came back and finished doing the review, but I literally could not take it anymore. Now, I hate to say this, but my favorite thing about this scene is the gobsmacked looks on the guards' faces as Superman just waltzes into the gulag, tearing doors off hinges and just going wherever he pleases. They don't challenge him. They don't try to stop him. They don't go, oh, there was an inspection today. We didn't know you were coming. Nothing. They just stare at him with their mouths hanging open, and he just walks all the fuck in. And Superman keeps making this worried little boy face, which I found incredibly annoying. And here, we also meet an angry little boy with strong eyebrows, who, spoiler alert, is baby Bruce Wayne, or the Russian equivalent of same, standing beside his apparently recently starved to death parents.
I can almost hear all of the Batman fanboys getting hard-ons.
Yeah, and in case this scene is just a little too subtle for you, bats fly out from behind him, from underground, inside the gulag. But we don't want anyone to get lost while watching this after all, so, we have to just keep it subtle. So, Superman rescues, air quotes, Svetlana, and she dies in his arms, and Superman reacts? But not before she gives him a really epic level of shitty advice. That, quote, this is a world where the strong rule and you're the strongest. Like, nah, bitch, that's not how this works. Not at all. And also, mentor/love interest dies for character motivation and or before completing advice cliche. Ding.
Captain Sama would be excellent at cinema sins.
Ding.
But I have to agree this is a weak plot device. As a character, Svetlana would be a much better influence alive, which we see in the motion comic. And even though death is a motivator for, say, Spider-Man or Green Lantern Kyle Rayner, and everybody's favorite superhero Batman, it isn't the only motivating factor in storytelling. Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, that is an old crutch that we really need to stop leaning on. I mean, there is such a thing as beating a dead horse, and then there's, the point where you get to the point where, the juddering does not count as life. Just stop it already.
Yes.
And definitely dead character for motivation cliche is definitely that one. So, Superman goes to confront old Joe, who basically tells him, well, my way is the right way with, death camps, absolute rule, and a cult of personality. That's never failed any time in the past. You'll see. And Superman's response is, I don't want your life.
This isn't foreshadowing at all, is it?
Hates me. Then Superman blasts old Joe into oblivion, which was amusing, though historically inaccurate.
Quite.
Then the guards burst in, take a look at the smoldering pile of ash that was the dear leader, and instantly bow down to Superman, and thus begins his descent into madness. We then jump back to Lois and Lex, and I love how they have separate landlines in their bedroom. Their relationship is so blasé and self-serving, and I gotta say, it is quite refreshing.
Now, this is actually a perfect example of our different points of view. This is the exactly wrong kind of relationship, in my opinion. Two people only in it for the outward appearance is never a strong union. And it's supposed to be at least a little off-putting for people who know the characters. There's no passion, there's no conflict, there's no reason to care about them. And even though Lois is an important secondary character, her role isn't fully acknowledged, apart from being Lex's wife.
But see, for me, they almost have a QP, which is a queer platonic relationship, where you may get two people of the same gender or maybe even opposite gender that decide that they're going to, say get married for the tax break or something. And they're just friends, essentially, that just decided to get married or whatever. And they just carry on as usual. And so for me, this was just very refreshing after all the romance crap that you usually get in most movies. This just felt like a whole new take, and I was just like, yeah, I kind of like it. They're both self-serving, and they both acknowledge it, and they're both fine with it.
Yes, but you would think two people who are friends would actually like each other, and it does not seem like that is the case between these two. But I'm not going to die on that hill. Let's continue.
Also, Jimmy Olsen is black in this version, which I think is actually a nod to the Supergirl series, which, again, is totally fine. I like that version of Jimmy.
Complete side note, I am going to cosplay as Jimmy Olsen one of these days, and not the Supergirl version.
Ah.
Red hair, freckles, frickin' bow tie, vest, and camera. Hell to the yes. Just to see how many people pick up on it.
Oh, that will be an interesting sight to see. More information later. But yeah, he and Lex almost get along better than Lex and Lois do. Jimmy is like a CIA consultant or something who's there to keep an eye on Lex. So Lex is there, in his lab collecting DNA from Superman to create his own monster version, because we need to shoehorn Bizarro Superman into this story too.
Ah, Bizarro. I enjoyed the movie version of this character, though, because it was obvious to anybody who reads comics what was going to happen. So getting to watch Superior Man essentially melt into Bizarro was a fun way to kill a few minutes. However, the comic version handles the character in a much more impressive way.
Mm-hmm. It really does. Ye olde exposition news then takes us to the Korean War, where Superman is, air quotes, liberating South Korea from, quote, American oppression, and took it over under the Soviet umbrella. And this made me sad, because that means no K-pop, no K-dramas, and no Bae Young-jun, who's the prettiest man who ever lived. Damn you, Superman.
He did me a friggin' favor. I was into K-pop in the early 2000s and got tired of it by 2005. In 2006, almost every weeb I knew asked me if I had heard K-pop music. If this had been reality, I wouldn't have been a hipster!
I was into it before it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So meanwhile, Lois is just living her best life, taking over the Daily Planet after Perry White retires, and Lex is being a self-absorbed asshat, and I kind of love it. I'm really kind of digging it. And Lois tells Jimmy that her 3, and I'd say pretty good reasons, for putting up with Lex are he lets her have her career and doesn't interfere, great sex, and she's sure that he'll change the world. What are a few missed anniversaries to that?
I refer you to my previous comments.
So Lex unveils Bizarro Superman, or Superior Man as Lex dubs him, because he's nothing if not subtle. They then have some soldiers there firing live rounds at this person in a warehouse full of reporters, and of course they all bounce off. I really wanted the camera to pan back to a room full of dead reporters as he cheers himself on, going, America first! Oh, so fucking stupid.
And sadly topical compared to the last few years. No more political opinions in the review, I promise.
It's getting harder, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So meanwhile, Superman, I know, you're going to hear us say meanwhile a lot. If you're asking us to tell you the action, unfortunately we are. It's moving at that kind of pace. We're not skipping things.
I really wish one of us would do the Super Friends one. Meanwhile...
One eternity later. So meanwhile, Superman is having a party at the Kremlin with Wonder Woman, who acts like she's ready to drop down on her knees and blow Superman on the dance floor, although she professes to be a lesbian. I can't say that I like this version of Wonder Woman. She seems naive.
Well, I can agree with you on the naivete. I do think her actions with Superman at this point are more out of connection than attraction, though. Admiration will cause a person to say things with an air of more than just friendly banter or compliments. However, this is not how Diana should be. In other media, she's an analog to Superman, and in one or two ways he's superior. No matter how long I live, the fight between Superman and Wonder Woman from the Infinite Crisis storyline is hands down the best battle I've ever read. Here, she's just, you're so cool. Oh man, I really like how you're doing things. I think my people will enjoy living alongside an egalitarian society. And it feels so wrong.
Yeah, she feels like they tried to use her to replace Lois's arm candy. And that's not Wonder Woman's character, and it just... I hate this movie.
In the comics, it's actually not as uncommon. It's still not the best way to go about it. The ways that they are demonstrated in other comics makes them more equal, recognizing each other's abilities, recognizing each other's strengths and weaknesses, and balancing off each other. In this case, it's just, we're two people with retarded superpowers. Let's go ahead and do this.
Yeah, that's not...
It's not a good idea. That's not how you write a story.
No, that's not Wonder Woman's character.
No.
Never mention I hate this movie. So, Bizarro Superman suddenly lands in Moscow, spouts some jingoistic bullshit, and attacks Superman. They then have a boring fight, and Bizarro Superman reverts to talking like a 3-year-old in incomplete sentences. He then overloads and melts into a pile of brown goo, robbing him of the vaguely heroic death that he gets in the comic by sacrificing himself to save Moscow from a rogue satellite that the two of them knocked out of orbit while they were fighting.
Even though both of them explode at the end of their arc, the comic version of Bizarro goes out in a blaze of glory, while the movie version vanishes with a whimper.
Yeah.
In this case, it's just a matter of personal opinion, but I like the overall arc for the movie version more. But I know a good ending when I see one. Comic book ending, so much better by far.
Yeah, because it gives the character some vague semblance of dignity that he does not have in this film. And you want the character to seem sad, and having him go out with some semblance of dignity creates that sadness. So Lois is watching all of this action from Lex's lab, and she gets pissy at him for overloading Bizarro Superman, and I'm like, bitch, you knew he was like that when you married him. Why are you mad now? And she flounces out, but to his credit, Lex does apologize. Then we jump to 1961 and the building of the Berlin Wall, because sure, why not? And the Allies are building this wall, which makes no damn sense. And Superman comes by and destroys it. And also, he really likes making speeches. And then, because we don't have enough going on, Brainiac arrives and shrinks down Stalingrad.
Which is a stand-in for the bottle city of Kandor from Krypton.
And suddenly it's 1966. Keep up, people.
See, you're a historian. You have a much longer attention span than comic nerds like me. We need progress, damn it!
So dumb. So Superman thinks that he's reprogrammed Brainiac to serve him, but, and this is slightly a deep cut here, this is more of a Grima Wormtongue / King Theoden situation, and Superman notices about as much. So, thanks to Brainiac, machines are now installed in people's heads to correct their thinking, and Superman is okay with this!
On a personal note, there have been times I've said to myself, I wish people thought how I think. Then there'd be peace, and everyone would be able to be happy. But I never go out and fucking do that shit. This scene is supposed to be disturbing, but it's so out of character for even Soviet Superman that one has to question the concept. What's really going on here?
Yeah, it feels like just for a minute somebody else started writing the character. It just makes no damn sense.
Agreed.
Then Batman rolls in, sadly as a freedom fighter / terrorist, to blow up buildings, and then he starts spitting truths at Superman that he would rather ignore. Then Batman kills a bunch of people without remorse, revels in the chaos he causes, and even as all this is happening on screen, all I really want to know is, where's he getting the money for his gear? He's broke AF in this reality. You may have noticed as time goes on, Superman's eyes get smaller as he loses his innocence. Which, you know, that's just a thing that they do in comic books and drawings and stuff like that. So, I mean, I get it, but just thought I would mention it. And now it's 1967!
Progress!
We get to meet the Green Lantern Corps. And it seems like Kennedy didn't get shot in this reality, so okay, there's one good thing that happened. And also, Superman is giving the entire Russian population fluoxetine in their water to curb suicides. You cannot give people unregulated quantities of Prozac like that. Creeping Christ on a crutch. This actually made me mad.
I actually had to go back and rewatch that part. I didn't even catch that. And as a person who is prescribed psych medication, I am appalled. Not everyone needs it. And that realistically would do more harm than good.
I mean, think about it. People use water to mix baby formula.
Yep.
You cannot give that to babies. We're almost done. So, thankfully, Diana's mother wants to pull out of the USSR as a diplomat, but Diana's unsure and reverts back to being the man-hating bitch one minute and then back to sucking up to Superman the next. And I'm just like, would you pick a character trait, please?
Stay in the lane.
You know, have I mentioned that I don't care for this version of Wonder Woman?
I believe you have, yes.
And this is then the only time that I laughed in the entire movie. When the Chinese ambassador is eating dinner with Superman, and after a bit of pressing from Superman, finally admits that Superman terrifies him. Just 3 little words. You terrify me. That made me laugh. Slightly. Then we get Batman in his biggest dick move yet, capturing and restraining Wonder Woman with the lasso of truth. She ultimately has to break it to escape, but she loses her power and it turns her hair white?
This is actually a callback to the original Wonder Woman from the 40s. She would lose her strength when her arms were bound specifically by a man. Apparently, the writer Charles Moulton was kind of into that and felt it was an appropriate addition to the story. Thankfully, it's handled different here, but it isn't much of an improvement.
Okay, not to kink shame, but I'm kink shaming you.
Good.
So Batman pulls a Batman and uses red sun lamps to instantly weaken Superman so that they can fight, as well as planting a bomb inside of himself, which is just... words fail. We then get my 2 favorite things to watch. 2 full minutes of 2 blokes having a punch-up. Yay.
I like a good fist fight myself. It's actually one of the most amusing things about when Hal Jordan goes rogue after Coast City's destroyed. The final line of defense is his arch nemesis Sinestro. They take off their power rings and beat the ever-loving crap out of each other. It's so simple. It's so satisfying. The same thing happens here. As for the bomb in his own body, there are levels of badassery to this, depending on whether he had someone do it to him or if he did it to himself. You know I do not like Batman all that much. That shit's badass.
That's true. Yeah, and Batman would rather suicide bomber himself into oblivion rather than give in to Superman, who, threatened him with, mental reconditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Which is both messed all the fuck up and metal as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And Diana finally sees Superman for the hypocrite that he is and bounces.
Peace.
And then suddenly it's 1983!
Once again, progress!
And we see that Lex Luthor has been elected president with Jimmy Olsen as his VP and Lois as the press secretary. How can I vote for this ticket? I don't care that I was 2 years old. At least I was alive to vote. Sorry, I promise no politics. Sorry.
Technically, I did it first. You're forgiven.
Seriously, how do I vote for this ticket? That's better than anyone we have running in the last, 10 years.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Sorry, we're doing it again. So, Superman is pouting in his office as the Iron Curtain starts to crack. And we, of course, begin to see more of Brainiac, that Brainiac is really the power behind the throne. Then the Green Lanterns show up and make a rather poor showing of fighting Superman. And that pissed me off, too. Guy Gardner goes out like a bitch before the fight is even decided, and Wonder Woman shows up to break up the fight. When Superman goes to punch her, she stops him with one hand, then leaves. Guy makes a stupid crack about, women, and Superman punches the shit out of him. That made me snort. The Lanterns then resume their fruitless attacks. Then Superman heads to DC with Brainiac to attack the White House.
Okay. The fact that some of the main Lanterns of Earth are here, Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Kyle Rayner, Guy Gardner, and I believe Alan Scott in the comic version made me just... I had a bit of a squee moment. Let's just be honest here. But yes, Guy going out like a bitch was a kind of an upsetting situation. Additionally, though, this is how Wonder Woman should have been the entire movie. And it is a fleeting moment that I wish had been longer.
Yeah, she was a neutral party. She just came in and she's like, "You both of you need to stop fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Let me do some negotiations because I'm not siding with either one of you." She's in a white version of her uniform with like gold edgings, and I thought it looked awesome,
Yes, it did.
especially with her white hair.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman starts to punch her, and then she goes, "You know what? Forget it," and she just bounces.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "What is even happening here? How many people are writing this stupid script?"
It brings me back to New Frontier. The first time we see Wonder Woman, she's sitting down after freeing a bunch of women who were basically being treated as concubines.
Mm-hmm.
Superman walks in and he's talking to her about how he feels about the whole situation. She stands up and she's 3 inches taller than him. Basically stands up, looks at him and says, "Bitch, please." That's how Wonder Woman's supposed to be, damn it.
Exactly. Just hang on, we're almost done with this train wreck. So, no one is at the White House except Lois, who's carrying tiny Stalingrad in a jar. No explanation how she got it, just she has it. Just don't ask questions, jingly keys. So she tells Superman that this is his perfect city in a jar. And this made me angry too, because this was such a great moment in the comics when she just hands him a note that just says, written down from Lex, that says, "Why don't you just put the whole world in a jar?" And Superman loses his damn mind. It is such a powerful moment, completely robbed in this movie, this train wreck of a movie of any significance. Here, it just completely falls flat. She tells Superman that he could have fixed Stalingrad anytime he wanted to, and he goes, "Oh, no, I didn't. I couldn't have done that." And Brainiac's like, "Yeah, I could have done it anytime I felt like it." He then blows up the Jar City, kills everybody in Stalingrad, and then he and Superman start fighting. Lex comes in with his super suit, and mostly is just like, again, it's two guys having a punch-up, this time with a giant robot head, and again, I'm just sitting here going, why are they destroying Washington, D.C.? I love D.C. That's not the emotion I'm supposed to be having right now.
Agreed.
So Superman finally takes out Brainiac, but only with Lex Luthor's help, and throws the ship into space. And again, all I can focus on is, how is Superman's cape flapping in space? There's no air to cause that. Details, they are important.
Now, 2 things. First, while there is no air, there are microscopic particles that are in space. Additionally, inertia from the movement through the atmosphere would keep the cape moving once in space, but damn sure would not be moving like this in the film.
No.
See, and the fact that we're actually talking about that shows the problems of this movie! That should not be what we're focused on right now.
And they tried to play the heroic music with him flying out into space, and literally all I'm focused on is how his cape is flapping while he's in space.
Well, it's another, physics-defying cape, much like Mojo Jojo's. It always flaps, whether or not there's wind, whether or not he's inside or outside. I guess they have the same tailor. I don't know.
But it's Mojo Jojo. He probably has electronics worked into it.
That would actually be pretty funny.
So Lex resigns to help rebuild the world or some shit. Lois sees Superman in the crowd, hiding in a trench coat and hat.
Air quotes.
And the movie ends. It just fucking ends. Totally undermining the true meaning of the comic, and taking away the twist ending, which was the best part. Thanks! I hate it! And now I'm mad all over again. You vamp while I take some deep breaths.
While Captain Sama recovers from damn near losing her mind, let me just say this ending is unsatisfying if you read the comic first. If you just watch Red Sun because someone told you it exists, it's still a weak ending. However, knowing there's more to the story takes the wind right out of the sails. Lex Luthor being philanthropic still makes me balk a little bit too. However, the character is in his simplest form in the story. He's brilliant, he's arrogant, and he's self-absorbed. One moment in the movie version that did demonstrate that, and it demonstrates how he views the world. He was more upset about losing a game of chess to Bizarro than any other moment in the movie.
That happened in the motion comic, not in this.
Well, see, that, once again, better version of it sticks to my head more. Even so, seriously wish it had been in both places. That's just how I feel there.
Yeah.
Overall, Red Sun as a story is an interesting tale. So much so they tried to do it again with Superman True Grit.
Mm.
I do not recommend this one. But the glaring differences in tone between the comic and the movie make the movie version harder to enjoy. It's a perfect example of the book was better.
Yeah,
However, go ahead.
and I'm not normally one of those, the book was better things. I'm fine with adaptations because certain things have to be changed when you're transitioning from a book to a film. But this is a comic book to an animated film. All you're doing is making extra panels so it looks like the people are moving. You could tell the same story in both places without having to change anything.
You have no excuse!
Exactly. Just...
In DC style, though, the animation is excellent, and the voice acting is high-end. And I still maintain that DC rules the small screen when it comes to movies and TV shows. There's nothing in me that will try and stop you from watching Red Sun, but no, this isn't the best version of this tale, and great cinematics don't necessarily replace a great story.
No. Give this film an epic skip. It is a giant ball of nothing. Just go ahead and read the motion comic. It's a simpler yet more satisfying experience, and I am done with this trash film. I want to take the DVD and trade it in. I don't even know if any places do that anymore. If they give me store credit for it, fine. If they want to give me $1.50 for this $17.99 piece of tripe, fine. If our listeners want it, you can have it. I'll even pay shipping to send it to you. I'm over it.
I absolutely love watching you have nerd rage because it is so entertaining to me that I'm not the only one who does that.
Soulless nothing. Just how do you? I mean, just anybody that knows even a little bit about how this story wraps up. There's just so much there, and just not knowing the ending and seeing it coming for the first time blew my mind. As a non-Superman fan, you have to understand the depth of my rage. As a person that is not a Superman fan, the depth of my rage at this film. The comic ending was so much better because I did not see that coming. And then when I finally realized what was happening, I spent the last 5 minutes sitting there with my mouth hanging open, tears running down my face as I realized what had happened, and just the circle of everything. And it was just fantastic. It was beautiful. The synchronicity, and then the fact that essentially there's no escaping your fate. It was such a good story. And I was so excited when I found out that this film was coming out. And then it took this simple piece of fiction worth literally the last 5 minutes on the most important part of the whole thing. And they just presented me with this corpse on a silver platter and said, it's the same movie. It's not! You're lying to me!
I have 4 words for you. Green Lantern, First Flight. I felt exactly the same way because the story that was telling was the origin of Hal Jordan becoming a Green Lantern based off a story called Emerald Dawn. And they left out half the interesting details.
Then it's not the same story.
No, it isn't, and I was furious.
Details! They are important!
And the devil happens to be in them, which is exactly why these things are sinful.
Listeners, if you've been with us long enough, or if you know us in real life, you know that I don't normally nerd rage. But this genuinely made me angry. The only other time I can ever recall being this angry is when the last Rurouni Kenshin OVA came out and completely gutted that entire series. For those of you that were born after the year 2000, that was a samurai-themed anime that was all the rage in the early 2000s, and it was fantastic. And they completely ruined it with the last OVA. And I hate it. I hate it very much. It's been 20 plus years and I'm still angry. So I can't guarantee that I'm going to get over the portrayal of this particular film for a very long time, if ever.
Uni would be proud.
Where can our listeners reach us before I get completely angry again?
Well, if you would like to listen to us talk about more ridiculously good or ridiculously bad stuff in the nerd community, you can find our contacts on Linktree at linktr.ee/little-old-people-podcast. You can also find us wherever you find your podcasts. I recommend sounder.fm. We also have social media where you can send us a message on Facebook at facebook.com/littleoppodcast. You can tweet at us on Twitter, twitter.com/littleoppodcast. Or if you want to send us an email and tell us about how great or terrible we may have been, you can email us at littleoldpeoplepodcast@gmail.com. Shall we tell them about the Discord?
Yes, let's tell them about the Discord.
Yes, for a little while we've been working on setting up a Discord. We will have the link there in the description as well, so that if you would like to interact with us directly, as well as other listeners from around the world, which we are happy for every single one of you, go down into the description and mash that link, and you will be able to connect to our Discord.
And you can also listen to more of Mark's nerdy thoughts on his YouTube channel, At Home with a Geek. He's been Mark. I've been ChibiMethos, your nerd hosts coast to coast, and we'll see you in the next one. Still angry!
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
One eternity later. I'm not just nerd raging for the camera, I'm really, really angry!
I know you are, and that's exactly why I'm waiting.